My husband came home late, reeking of perfume. When I asked, he smirked, just a work thing, nothing serious. Suspicious, I tracked his location and found him at a hotel the next night. Instead of confronting him, I booked the room next door. The next morning, he walked into the lobby and froze when he saw me sitting there with his boss. His face turned white as I said, "We need to talk. I'm 45, married for 18 years. We have 2 grown kids in college. We live in Arlington, Virginia. My husband, we'll call him Greg, is 47. He works for a private defense contractor based in D.C. I've worked part-time for years at a small local library. For a long time, I thought our life was stable. Not perfect, but fine. I noticed a change about 4 months ago. Greg came home late one night, close to midnight. That wasn't too unusual, his job can be intense sometimes, late meetings, travel, etc. I was already in bed when he came in. I turned over, ready to ask if he'd eaten, but then I smelled it. Perfume. Not faint. Not the kind that lingers from a hug or brushing past someone. This was strong. Sweet. Cheap. A scent I didn't wear, and one I didn't recognize. I sat up. I asked him, "What's that smell?" just trying to sound casual. He paused. Gave this half-smile. Then said, "Work thing." We went out for drinks. Someone spilled a drink on me. He didn't sound nervous. He didn't over-explain. But there was something in the way he said it. The little smirk. The fake casualness. Like it was a rehearsed line. That was the moment I knew something was wrong. He bought new underwear. New cologne. Started flossing more. Even shaved his chest, which he's never done. I asked him once, "Are you seeing someone?" He looked me in the eye and said no. Flat. Direct. No emotion. Just, of course not. And maybe I wanted to believe him. But I didn't. I know this part will make some of you judge me. That's fine. I judged myself a bit too. But I opened the Find My app on my phone one night when he said he was at the office. It was around 8:30 p.m. I stared at that little dot and waited for it to load. Hilton Garden Inn. Not his office. Not even close. I stared at it for a long time. Then I took a screenshot. I sat in my living room with the lights off, just holding my phone. Then I took another screenshot 30 minutes later. The dot hadn't moved. He was staying the night. Then I called his company. I've met his boss before at a few events, and I know her assistant from a Christmas party last year. I called her and said I wanted to surprise Greg with a birthday brunch and needed to know when his boss, Margaret, would be free to join. She gave me a date and time. The upcoming Saturday at 9 a.m. worked for her. Perfect. Friday night came. Greg told me around 5 p.m. that he'd have to work late again. I said, "That's fine. I've got a headache anyway. Probably going to bed early." He said he might be home late, or maybe not until the morning. "Don't wait up," he said. I said okay. At 6:30 p.m., I drove myself to the Hilton and checked into my room. It was just down the hall from the one he stayed in before. I brought snacks, coffee, and my laptop. I didn't watch anything. I couldn't concentrate. I just sat near the peephole with the lights dimmed. At 10:14 p.m., I saw him. He walked down the hall and entered room 415. He wasn't alone. There was a woman with him. She was blonde, maybe early 30s. Dressed like she was out for a date night. He carried her bag. Opened the door for her. I didn't cry. I felt frozen. I watched the door close. I barely moved the rest of the night. I got up early. Showered. Dressed in a navy wrap dress, heels, did my makeup. I looked put together, even though I felt like a storm inside. I texted Greg at 6:45 a.m., "Did you make it through the night okay?" "Hope work wasn't too crazy," he responded at 7:20 a.m., "Yeah. Crashed at the office. Going to grab coffee and head home soon." That was all I needed. At 8:45 a.m., I went down to the hotel lobby. I sat near the little fireplace area and ordered a tea from the front desk cafe. At exactly 9 a.m., Margaret walked in. Greg's boss. She smiled at me, and I stood up to greet her. We chatted for a minute. She asked if Greg knew we were meeting. I said, "No, it's a surprise." And then at 9:06 a.m., the elevator dinged. Greg stepped out. He saw me. He froze. His whole face changed. He looked like a man who'd just seen a ghost. Margaret turned and saw him too. "Oh hey, Greg," she said, cheerful. He didn't respond. His eyes didn't leave mine. I walked up to him and said, calm as anything, "We need to talk." So there we were. Me, standing in the hotel lobby. Dressed sharp. Holding eye contact with a man I no longer recognized. Greg, my husband, was frozen like he couldn't decide whether to run or lie. His boss Margaret gave him a friendly smile, like none of this was awkward. She had no idea what was going on yet. Greg finally spoke. Quiet, strained. "Can we go somewhere private?" I nodded once. "Sure." I turned to Margaret and smiled. "I'm sorry. Something came up. I'll call you later." She looked a little confused but polite. "Oh, okay. No problem." Then it happened. The elevator dinged again. We both froze. A knock came at the door. 3 sharp knocks. Greg whispered, "Don't answer it." I stood. Opened the door. Her. The woman from the night before. Her lipstick was fresh. Hair brushed. Same outfit as last night. She looked confused, then surprised when she saw me. Her eyes went straight to Greg. Then back to me. Then to Greg again. She said, "What's going on?" Greg stepped forward. "You shouldn't be here." She said, "You left without saying anything. You just disappeared." I turned to her. "Hi. I'm his wife." Dead silence. Her face dropped like the blood had drained from it. She turned to Greg. "You said you were divorced." I softened my voice. "I'm not blaming you. I just want to know." She stared at Greg. Then at me. And said, quietly, 3 months. I nodded. That lined up with everything. Then she said, "But I wasn't the only one." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" I asked. She looked at Greg again. "You told me you had another woman before me. That you ended it. That you wanted something real this time." She turned to me. "He said you were toxic. That you tried to control him. That you cheated on him first." Greg's mouth opened. "That's not what I said," I cut him off. "Shut up." He did. I looked at her and said, "He's lied to both of us. You were just next in line." Her eyes started to water. She stepped back and left without saying another word. I didn't stop her. She deserved better too. I stood up and grabbed my bag. He said, "Where are you going?" I looked at him one last time. "Somewhere you're not." And I walked out. I haven't told the kids yet. I haven't told Margaret. I haven't told his company. I haven't told his family. But I will. I'm taking my time. I've got screenshots. Hotel records. Texts. Proof. What hurts the most isn't that he cheated. It's that he had no problem lying to my face every single day, while pretending everything was normal. I don't know what comes next. But I'm not staying quiet. Not anymore. I left the hotel that morning shaking. I wasn't crying. I was too numb to cry. I didn't go home right away. I went to a little diner down the street, sat in a booth by the window, and just stared at my coffee for a while. Everything was quiet around me, but my head was loud. I kept hearing that woman's voice in my head. "He said you were divorced. You weren't the only one. 3 months. Not just one affair. Maybe 2. Maybe more." And then something strange happened. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. No name. Just a message, "You don't know me. But you should check his storage unit. Number 442 at Dominion Lock and Store off Glebe Road. Bring gloves." I stared at the message for a full 5 minutes. Thought maybe it was a prank. But I couldn't ignore it. Greg had a small storage unit he used for old work gear and documents. I'd only been there once, years ago. Never thought anything of it. But now? I couldn't stop thinking about it. I drove there that afternoon. I asked the front desk if I was listed as an authorized person on Unit 442. The guy checked the system, then shrugged. "You're listed as a spouse, so technically yes. I can let you in." He handed me a spare key from their office set. I signed a logbook and walked down a long hallway to the unit. My heart was pounding the whole time. One said, "Can't believe you're finally leaving her." Another said, "I know you don't want her to know about us." "I'll wait." My hands started to shake. Then I saw a folder. It had pictures. Greg with other women. In restaurants. In hotel lobbies. In parks. Hugging. Kissing. Some of them recent. Some of them old. Some of the photos were printed with dates and times. He had a whole system. Almost like a double life. Or three. I took one of the burner phones. It had a little charge left. No passcode. I scrolled through the texts. One message thread stood out. Recent. Unknown contact, so when are you telling her? Greg, soon. She's starting to get suspicious. Unknown contact, if you don't tell her, I will. Greg, you wouldn't dare. She'd destroy me. I stared at the words, she'd destroy me. That's why he was begging me to stay. Not because of love. Because he was afraid. Afraid I'd tell Margaret. Afraid I'd tell the truth. Afraid I'd ruin his polished little image. I messaged one of the numbers from the burner phone. Just said, hi. I'm Greg's wife. I found this number in his storage unit. The typing bubble appeared almost immediately. I knew it. He lied about everything. Another woman. She said her name was Naomi, lived in Fairfax. She met Greg through a dating app last year. He said he was newly divorced and starting over. She said they dated for 6 months. He told her he had no kids. That his wife had cheated on him. That he'd been emotionally abused and cut off from affection. She continued, I only asked because, after we saw each other at the hotel, I started going over some expense reports. Something didn't add up. I stayed silent. She said, Greg's been submitting hotel charges under a client's name. We cross-checked. That client was out of the country. Twice. I closed my eyes. She said, I haven't said anything to HR yet. But if there's something I need to know, now's the time. I said, you might want to check if any of those hotels match Unit 415 at the Hilton Garden Inn. Dead silence on the other end. Then Margaret said, you know what? I will. Greg doesn't know I've been to the storage unit. He doesn't know I've spoken to Naomi. He doesn't know I have the burner phones, the photos, or the receipts. He thinks this is just about one woman. But it's not. It's about the pattern. He's been doing this for years. And now I know how deep it goes. I haven't decided what I'm doing next. Lawyer's still working on the paperwork. My kids don't know. His parents don't know. His company doesn't know. Yet. But the truth? It's not staying hidden much longer. Greg's parents had invited us to dinner that Sunday. Just a small gathering at their home in Falls Church. His mother, Lillian, always tried to pretend everything was fine. Always wanted the happy front. He asked me earlier that week if I'd go with him. Probably thought it would make him look normal again. I said yes. I wanted to do this in front of people who needed to hear the truth too. His parents. Our daughter. Our son was still away at school, but I planned to call him after. I found Greg's storage unit. The room fell completely silent. Alyssa looked at me, then at her dad. Greg froze, fork halfway to his mouth. I found the photos. The burner phones. The hotel records. I talked to Naomi. And Claire. And 2 others. Lillian said softly, what is this about? Greg stood up, like he was going to try to take control of the moment. I stood too. You've been cheating, I said. Not once. Not with one woman. With multiple. Over years. His mother gasped. Greg said, can we not do this here? No, I said. This is exactly where it needs to happen. Alyssa stood up. Dad? Are you serious? He looked at her. Then back at me. I made mistakes, how many? I asked. Quiet. Razor sharp. He stared at the floor. How many, Greg? I asked again. He whispered, I don't know. His dad slammed a hand on the table. You don't know? Alyssa's eyes were full of tears. You lied to Mom. You lied to us. Greg turned to her. I never stopped loving your mother, stop, I snapped. You loved the version of me that didn't ask questions. That let you do whatever you wanted. Lillian covered her mouth with one hand. Thomas stood and walked out of the room. Alyssa sat back down, crying silently into her napkin. Greg followed me out into the backyard as I went to leave. Please, he said, grabbing my arm. Don't do this. I pulled away. You already did this, I said. I'm just finally reacting. He knelt. Literally got on his knees. I'll quit my job. I'll go to therapy. I'll confess to Margaret. Just don't leave me. I looked down at him, the man I built a life with. And all I saw was a stranger wearing his face. I left you the moment I opened that storage unit. I walked away. That night, I stayed at Alyssa's apartment. She cried next to me on the couch. I thought you two were the solid ones, she said. The only ones in my friend group whose parents weren't a mess. I thought that too, I said. Greg tried calling. Left voicemails. Emails. Apologies. I didn't answer. Margaret texted me 2 days later. We're conducting an internal investigation. Greg's been suspended with pay for now. I'm sorry. It's been 6 weeks. The divorce is in motion. I'm keeping the house. The kids know. The truth is out. Greg's been quiet lately. He tried writing me a letter, but it didn't say anything new. Just the same lines, I didn't mean to. It didn't feel real. You were always the one. But none of that matters when he chose the lies, over and over, knowing what it would cost. Lillian called me. She apologized. Said she didn't raise him to be like this. I told her it wasn't her fault. People wear masks their whole lives. Sometimes they even convince themselves. Alyssa's in therapy now. I started going too. The biggest wound wasn't just the betrayal. It was realizing how long I accepted silence. How long I let my own gut tell me something was off, and ignored it. I don't know if I believe in marriage anymore. Or in soulmates. But I believe in clarity. In walking away with your spine straight, even when your heart feels broken. Greg didn't destroy me. He just freed me from a lie I didn't want to live in anymore. So no, I'm not hopeful. I'm not desolate either. I'm awake now. And that's enough, for now. It didn't end with that dinner. That was just the crack. The real collapse came 2 weeks later, at Greg's company fundraiser in DC. See, even after everything, Greg didn't cancel his RSVP. His name was on the list. Mine too. I had no intention of going. But Margaret, the same Margaret, his boss, called me personally and asked if I would. I want you there, she said. You don't have to speak. Just be present. She didn't explain. But I understood. It was held at a fancy rooftop venue overlooking the Potomac. Glass walls. Twinkling lights. Everyone in suits and dresses, pretending the world was clean. Greg saw me the moment I walked in. He froze mid-sentence talking to a donor. His whole body stiffened. I could see him calculating 1,000 thoughts in 1 second. He came over. You came, he said, voice low, like we were still playing nice. I was invited, I said. Before he could respond, Margaret stepped up beside us. She looked tired. But determined. I think we should talk. All 3 of us, she said. Greg blinked. Now? She nodded once. Yes. Now. She led us to a glass-walled conference room just off the main hall. Quiet. Still. Then she dropped the file. Printed emails. Expense reports. Hotel receipts. Timestamps. All the evidence. Everything I had shared. Greg's face lost all color. I've cross-referenced all your reimbursement forms, she said coldly. You billed our company for at least 5 personal trips. Multiple hotel stays. You lied about clients being involved. He tried to interrupt. I was under stress, she held up a hand. Stop. Then she looked at me. Would you like to say anything? She asked. I stepped forward, calm but shaking inside. You didn't just cheat on me, I told Greg. You used your job to cover it up. You dragged other women into your lies. You used your boss's trust. And you looked your own daughter in the eyes and lied again. Greg turned to me, whispering, please, not here. No, I said. Exactly here. He looked at Margaret, like maybe she'd soften. She didn't. You're on leave starting now, she said. HR will contact you with the next steps. Then she turned to leave. I followed. Greg stood there, not moving. But as I reached the elevator, I heard footsteps. Then his voice. Please wait. I turned. He stood there, eyes red. Voice shaking. Hands in his pockets like a child who got caught stealing. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't respond. He tried again. I messed up. I know that. I need help. You don't want help, I said. You want rescue. I miss you. I looked him dead in the eyes. You miss who you were when I still respected you. I didn't go home that night. I stayed with Alyssa again. She cried harder this time than she had before. I just don't get how he could do this to you, she said. You're so solid. So real. I was too quiet, I said. Too trusting. That made it easy. She hugged me like a little girl again. I hadn't felt that in years. Greg's mom texted the next day. I don't know what to say. I'm so ashamed. I didn't respond. I didn't have space for her shame. I had my own pain to carry. Margaret called me that evening. Told me Greg had been terminated. Misuse of funds. Breach of ethics. He was blacklisted from future contracts. All I said was, thank you for holding him accountable. She said, thank you for not staying silent. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. He tried to delay it. Claimed emotional instability. Tried to salvage half the house. But my lawyer was good. I had receipts. I kept the house. Got what I needed. Didn't ask for more than I was due. Greg ended up moving into a small basement unit in Springfield. No job. No car for a while. He wrote me one last letter. Said he didn't know who he was anymore. Said he missed the version of us that used to laugh in the kitchen while cooking. Said he wished he could go back. I burned it. Because that version of us? It died the day he came home smelling like another woman's perfume and smirked at me like I was stupid. I still have days where it hits me like a truck. 18 years. Gone. Sometimes I stand in the kitchen and swear I hear him laughing. Sometimes I forget and still reach for 2 coffee cups. But those moments are fading. I'm starting to feel things again. Joy. Anger. Confidence. I go on walks without checking my phone every 10 seconds. I sleep through the night. I laugh without faking it. People show you who they are. Listen. Silence is not love. Avoidance is not kindness. Peace isn't always peace, it's sometimes just fear in disguise. If someone lies long enough, they forget they're doing it. But you don't have to forget. And you don't have to stay. I'm not hopeful yet. But I'm not broken either. I'm still standing. Still breathing. Still learning how to be my own person. And that? That feels like something real. Finally.